Hey, welcome to day 8 of our 7th Get Up and Go Challenge, our 7th 30-plus day free Get Up and Go Challenge, our challenge to guarantee that we have better results after any change or challenge that we face than before we faced it by following a simple framework, a simple process, which on day 8, we haven't even gotten to it yet. Can you believe it? We still haven't even talked about what this supposed secret, it's not really a secret, it's just how we do things, process even is. Now, yesterday, we shared our core values. We examined and we looked at our core values. And hopefully, like me, you did this and you shared what is your overarching core value. What is the one thing that you use as a filter to kind of look at everything that you do? Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's abundance. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's whatever it is for you. Maybe it's adventure. Maybe it's excitement. Maybe it's curiosity. Whatever it is, by doing this, like I said yesterday, I have a hard time picking just one thing, and that's why doing it by the different areas and aspects of our life, picking one for each and then looking for common themes, helps me to boil down and get to know and understand myself better. So that's what we did yesterday. Now today, we're going to talk about your change reaction, how you do things. It doesn't matter how I do things, although I'll share how I do it and did it. Because today we're going to look at what do you do right now when you're faced with a challenge or a change, because really a challenge is just something different, right? It's something new. It's something usually unexpected, but a challenge is just a change, and change happens all the time to all of us, pretty much every day of our lives. I don't know about you, but very few of my days look exactly the same as the day before. At least throughout my lifetime, that's tended to be true. Right now, during COVID, some of my days look like the day before, but I look for ways to make it creative and more fun and not as monotonous or boring as some days could be. How do I do that? Lots of different ways. But what we're going to talk about today, and our tool that we're going to use today, is curiosity, investigation, asking questions, inquiring, being curious about yourself and how you do things, what makes you tick. Because it doesn't matter how your mom or your dad or your friend or your neighbor or your boss or your peers do things. What matters is how do you do it? How do you process information? How do things work for you? So today what we're going to look at is how do you handle change? How do you currently deal with change? What do you do now? Really, we're going to break this down step by step by step and look at and investigate how do we do change? How do we handle changes? I like to, if I'm having a hard time picking something or really figuring out what are my steps, because all of us have feelings and thoughts and things that we actually do, things that we tell ourselves every time we're faced with a challenge or a change. We don't realize it consciously because it all goes on in our subconscious. It happens automatically. When somebody hurts our feelings, we automatically react and respond in a certain way. When someone, and how do our feelings even be hurt? That there's a process that leads up to us deciding that our feelings have been hurt. If the COVID pandemic, I like to go back to beginning of COVID and how did I respond to that as I'm looking at that as my current or before way of handling situations, and how do I handle change right now if I need a big thing, because COVID impacted pretty much everyone on the planet in some way, shape, or form, and was a change that all of us needed to adjust to and deal with. So you can pick a big event or a small event. Sometimes I like to go through and say, okay, well, what is my process for change on something small, like if a computer software changes, say Facebook algorithm changes something, and how I process my videos in the morning is different. That happens to me almost every day. It used to really trip me up and get me all upset and discombobulated, but I'm to the point now where I've accepted that, hello, different software, different programs, computer things and technology are ever changing, ever evolving. Sometimes the changes feel like improvements to us. Sometimes the changes feel like not improvements, or we don't like the changes that are made. And I have a process that I now go through, but it isn't what I used to do. There'd be a change in an algorithm or a change in the way I have to do things in the morning, and the first thing I would do is I'd get mad, I'd get upset, I'd get frustrated. Well, how did I get that way? Why did I start feeling that way? Did I feel that way, or did I ask myself questions that caused me to feel that way? Well, I probably asked myself questions like, Why is this always changing? Why does this happen to me? Why is this so difficult for me? Why is this so challenging for me? So I probably started by asking myself questions, or first observing that something was different and not working the way I expected it to, because that's the way it worked yesterday. And then I would go through all these questions and feelings and thoughts until I finally would come to, well, ask myself better questions, right? But my original process was, like most people's, to just, something would happen, I would react. Something would happen and I would react. Usually emotionally first, then I would ask myself questions and get a little bit more rational. But that's all we're going to look at today. We're going to look at, what do we currently do? And just as you go throughout your day, I want you to notice when something unexpected happens, because usually a change or a challenge is something unexpected, or not always unexpected, because sometimes we know that things are going to be different every day, but we haven't conditioned ourselves to say, okay, we know that it's going to be different every day. Think of the weather. The weather, for example. Do you get upset about the weather or traffic? I used to get upset about traffic or the weather if it disappointed me. Well, talk about something that we absolutely positively have zero control over. Anybody have control over the weather? We do have a little control over traffic, in that we can choose what times we leave our house. We can learn the traffic patterns. There's things we can do, but with weather, no. I don't know anybody that's got a weather machine yet that can control the weather. So to get upset about what is the weather is a complete waste of time and energy. But it took me years to come to that conclusion. But today, all we're going to do is we're going to look at, what is your current way of dealing with challenge? What is your current way of dealing with change? And I want you to write down step by step by step what you do as you notice it. And if it works for you, pick a change or a challenge that you're facing now, because when you're currently in the situation, it's a lot easier to take it apart and say, okay, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's my initial emotional response? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? You know, what does this mean to me? Does it mean, and what does it mean in the short term or the long term? And do you ask yourself any of these questions at all? Maybe not. And then our action item today is to just share one positive thing that we notice about our change reaction and the way we deal with change, and then one negative thing, one thing we'd like to change about our change reaction. I personally wanted to change that I immediately reacted in a negative manner to almost any kind of change. And I would go from 0 to 100 frustrated at the drop of a pin, right? A pin would drop and I would be like, okay, something's different than it was yesterday on the computer. I am super freaked out and frustrated. And I wanted to put a few more steps in there to be able to handle that kind of a change just automatically in a positive way. Now, something happens on the computer, and I almost expect and look for, with anticipation and curiosity, what's changed in any one of the programs that I happen to be dealing with, and how am I going to solve it? How long does it take me to solve it? It used to take me like 2 weeks to solve a technological problem, and that was with looking for an answer until I would finally ask for help, and then boom, I'd have the answer. But now it's a matter of seconds usually, in terms of, I see it, here's the change, and then I automatically go through this whole process that gives me better answers and better solutions and a better emotional response, which gives me better results whenever anything happens, changes and challenges. So I hope that's clear. Here's our assignment. Change reaction. What is your change reaction? Step by step by step by step. What's the first thing you notice? Maybe you're a visual person and you see a change first. Maybe you're an auditory person and you hear a change first. Maybe you just are sensitive and you can feel a change coming, and that's how you initially are triggered or alerted to the fact that something is different, something's changed, and it's probably going to impact you in some way, shape, or form. So then just share one positive, one negative, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow. And we're going to look at, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to take whatever your change reaction is now, whatever it is. Whether it's crazy like mine was, and I just immediately would, there's a reason my family used to tell me to pop the cork. I would initially react, and what we can do to create the change process that we absolutely want and guarantees that we'll get better results every time we are faced with a change or a challenge than before. All right, have an awesome day. Questions, hit me up in the comments below. If you want some examples of it, ask, and I can give some examples. Also, we've talked about this in previous challenges, so you can always go back and type in change reaction, and you will get, of course, previous examples of this. I think maybe did a better job of explaining it in the past. All right, have a great day. Of course, be with you tomorrow. Bye. Go make some changes.